Hi everyone, it's Jennifer of CelticKnotCrochet.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make these elegant Easter eggs. It's a very simple pattern, works up fast. Hopefully you have enough in your stash that you can make one of these this week, just in time for Easter. It uses size 3 thread and just a couple crochet motifs. And then what's fun about this is different colors, different colored eggs, and then all the different kinds of embellishments that you probably have in your craft supplies make each one unique and each one different. So stay tuned and I'll show you how to make one so you can have a whole bunch of new Easter decorations this year. And there's a nice special little video that shows me making these eggs with my daughters. So I'll put the link in the description below and you might even see it float by here in the video. So thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Have fun and happy Easter. So here are a whole bunch of eggs that I made and my daughters. And you can see that there are just a few elements that you crochet. If you look at this one here, this one doesn't have any of the fancy embellishments, it's just crocheted. So let's get started. First up, supplies. You'll need an egg. Now we have all different kinds of eggs available. Right now you probably aren't going to a craft store. Of course you can order some things online. I happen to have these in my stash from last Easter. There are these plastic eggs from Hobby Lobby that I bought on sale, and then there are these styrofoam sparkly eggs. These are about the size of an extra large egg. They're great because they're lightweight, and because they're styrofoam you can actually pin into them to hold things in place. You can also use a real egg. This actually right here is one of the few white eggs we had left that I blew out. So that's a real egg, and you could also use wooden or plastic, whatever you have on hand. Just if you do use a real one, obviously you'd want to blow the center out so you can save it, because once you sew it together it's on there for good. You'll also need some size 3 cotton crochet thread. So it's not the tiniest stuff that you see in the stores, which is size 10. It's a couple sizes up from that, so it's pretty good thickness. And then a C hook or 2.75 millimeter hook. This is a clover hook. Feels great in your hands because it stays warm and has this silicone handle. And then of course you have all kinds of embellishments that you could add to your egg, and I'll show you here on the finished ones. We'll look at them later, but there are gems, sequins, these are bead charms that I got on Etsy. You can also cut some shapes out of felt and glue those on. All kinds of things that you could add to make each one unique. No two are exactly alike. So the first step is to crochet the cord that goes around the center of the egg, but the long ways. And it should be for a standard egg like this one of the extra large, the cord should come to about 7 inches long. So measure your egg, and if you go around this way and it's 7 inches, then your egg is about the size of this one that I designed this project for. If you're using one that's slightly smaller, just remove some of the chains. We removed 5 chains from this one, and then it's still wrapped all the way around. And you could always just wrap it around to check and take off what you don't need. So you'll want to chain 43 and single crochet in the back bump of the chain. Now I have a video on just that step, but I can show you how to do that. So you would chain 43, skip the first chain, and then you're going to single crochet in the back bump of the chain. So I'll show you. Here is the chain, and this is the back side. The front looks like a bunch of V's or a braid. You turn that over, and now you can see how there's a bump on the back there. That's what you're going to put your hook under. And by crocheting in that back bump, you end up with a really pretty cord that has the V braid on top and the V braid on the bottom. So it looks the same on both sides. So you'll see just like this one here. So chain 43, single crochet in the second chain and in each chain across, and you'll have a cord that measures 7 inches long. So here is my cord, and I'm going to set that aside for later. Next, you're going to make the flower motif, and there are 2 of those. They work up very, very fast. The center is made with an adjustable ring. I have a video just on that technique, but if you'd like to watch a quick rendition of that, take your yarn tail, wrap it around your non-dominant hand, pinch on top, then put your hook through the loop you just made and grab the working yarn and pull it through. This is the hardest part right here. You pinch the top without letting go, and then chain 1, and that locks that circle loop in place, and then chain single crochet right inside the ring. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you'll find all the steps to this pattern on my website, celticknotcrochet.com. And then what makes this adjustable or magic is you pull the yarn tail and that closes everything up. Now if you'd like an easier version and you don't want to do this, and you know that you're going to be putting something in the middle and covering up that center hole, you can just chain 2 at the beginning of your project and then work 6 single crochets all in the second chain. So that's one option for you if you don't want to do the adjustable ring. I like the adjustable ring because it eliminates that gap in the middle. Round 2, you're going to work into each stitch around, and you're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12. So this is called increasing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now if you'd like, you can mark the first stitch of your round with a stitch marker so you don't lose your place or if you get interrupted. These work so fast that I haven't been using a stitch marker. I just count and try to focus so I don't get interrupted. So this is our last round of single crochet. We're going to now do 2 single crochets in the first stitch and then 1 in the next stitch. So now we're alternating where we increase every other stitch. So 2 in the next one, 1 in the stitch after that. And I'm going to continue that all the way around till I have 18. So that was 6, 7, 8, 9, then 10, 11, 12, then 13,
14, 15, 16, 17, and the last one, 18. And now I have my last round where I'm going to add the loops that look like petals. So I slip stitch in the next stitch, which is yarn over, pull through everything. Move these out of the way. Then I'm going to chain 5. Then I'm going to skip 1 stitch and slip stitch in the next stitch. Hook in, yarn over, pull through the stitch and through the loop on your hook. Chain 5 again. Skip 1 stitch, slip stitch in the next stitch. And I'm going to continue like that all the way around. Now, as I've mentioned before, if you haven't worked with thread much, you can always try this pattern with just regular medium weight yarn and a H hook just to get the hang of it. And then you can make a flower after you figured it out with the medium weight yarn. You can make a flower with the size 3 thread and the smaller hook. So sometimes it helps to practice with a yarn weight and a hook that you're more used to before you jump into doing the smaller hook. So there, I've gone all the way around, chain 5 loops with a skip stitch in between all, and I should have 9 total chain 5 loops. And then I'm going to slip stitch right in that first slip stitch of the round, and then I'm ready to fasten off and put my egg together. Now when I weave ends in when I'm working with thread, I keep in mind what's going to be happening with the project. So this is going to be on egg, it's not going to be on a garment, it's not going to be washed, so I'm not even going to weave all these in all the way. But I do want to secure this center part here with the adjustable ring, because that I pulled it tight, but it could still come undone because there's no slip knot there to keep it from opening back up again. So this is the size yarn needle you often use, but when I work with thread, I like to use more of an embroidery needle that has a much smaller eye. And sometimes it can be challenging to thread it, but that way it fits through the smaller stitches easier. So I thread the yarn tail that I ended with onto the needle first, and I work back towards the center of the motif. Make sure I don't pull it too tight. And then I tie those 2 yarn tails together in an overhand double knot, nice and secure. And again, this is going to be hidden and sitting on the egg, so no one will see it. So now that it's got a nice knot, I'm just going to cut those 2 ends off. And that cuts out some more time on the project. And again, it won't show, and it's knotted, so it's not going to be going anywhere. So here is one of these styrofoam eggs that's extra large egg size, and I've sewn the ends of the cord together. So here's the cord, the completed cord, and I use the yarn tails to sew the ends together, making sure it doesn't twist, and then I wove in the yarn tails so you couldn't see them, and then I slide it over the egg. And for the styrofoam eggs, it works great to just use a couple pins to hold the cord in place. So I think I used 4. That way it doesn't slide around. You could hot glue it too if you want, but once you sew the motifs on, this cord won't be going anywhere. So by putting the pins on like this, it gives you actually something to hold on to, and it keeps the cord nice and secure. And then you'll want to do the same thing with the motif. So I know there are 9 loops, so I want 1 to point straight up to the top, and then I'm going to have 3 here and 3 here, with 2 pointing down towards the wider bottom. And then just put a pin, can go all the way in so it's not sticking out. We'll take these out later. I mean, these are pretty pins with pearls, so you could leave these pins in if you put them in a certain spot, and that could be part of the decoration. I'm going to do that with the other motif on the back, and then I'm going to show you how to sew them on. Again, making sure 1 is pointing towards the top, and then 3 on one side, 3 on the other, with 2 going down to the wider bottom. Alright, so now that my cord and motifs are in place, I'm going to start at the top, and I just have a nice long length of the matching thread on my needle, and I pull it through, leaving 3 to 4 inches of a yarn tail so I can weave that in easily later. And just tie a double knot here. That secures it the best way I know how. And now I'm going to go right through that top center chain 5 loop and pull, not too tight, but enough where you can see it starting to pull the motif loop. And then I'm going to go right back into that same stitch on the cord that I came out of. And you just adjust it like so. Then I'm going to go through the cord here and come back out somewhere across from here. So depending on how big your egg is, how tight your stitches are, you might need to skip 2 stitches, 3 stitches, or maybe even 4. Also depends where on the egg you are. So I just pull that 1 loop over and see, okay, is it more lined up with this stitch I can see here on the cord, or this one? And it looks like it's lined up with this one. So I just go right out the center of the stitch on the cord and then through the chain 5 space, as you can see, and then I'm going to take the thread right back into that same exact stitch, being careful not to get the thread caught on my pins. And then I tug it just to make sure it's nice and taut. And you can see how it works up pretty quickly. So I think here I'm just going to skip two stitches again because I'm using matching thread and being careful to go through the middle of the cord. You don't see it. I could do another test. Pull that loop out. It looks like I'm right opposite. Go through the loop and back to the cord. So I continue like that all the way around. I'll provide a diagram in the pattern on CelticKnotCrochet.com, and you'll also see from the photos the different options you can do. You can do one here in the center, or you can skip that. You can have these angled down or straight across. There really is no wrong or right way to do it. And you're going to continue all the way around, and then after you've done one whole first side, you're going to do the same thing on the back side. But what's neat about this is now you really don't even have to think about it, because you're going to go through the cord to the same place that the stitching came out on the first half. You're going to come out of this same stitch here and come over to this loop. And then you'll work through the cord, and there's your signal. That's the next spot to come out. So you're just going to match the second half with the first half. And you'll see, show you with this green one. So you see how I skipped 3 or 4 here, skipped just 2, skipped 3, skipped 3 or 4, skipped 4 I think across the bottom, and so forth. And then when I did the other side, I just made sure that mine matched up as best as I could, like that. And this one, I just really like the green egg underneath the off-white thread, so I didn't add any embellishments. But if you would like to, one way to add the embellishments is just by using sewing thread. So I use black sewing thread because I didn't have a blue that matched this exactly, and it just disappears. And like I said, I got these Celtic knot charms on Etsy. So I sewed that on both sides so it matched. And this one I didn't do the stitching, I just hot glued it. So that's another option too, if you want a curved flower look. On this here, I just cut a small cross out of felt and hot glued it on, and a small heart. This one here, one of my daughters made, and she glued on a bunch of gems and along the cord. I really like that. This one, another daughter of mine made, and she glued on gems. She also glued gems, teardrop gems that fit perfectly inside the chain 5 loops. And then she also used a bunch of sequin pins, which are basically sewing pins, but shorter. And you put a seed bead on. Can you see that? You put a seed bead on and then a sequin, and the seed bead acts as a stopper, and since this is styrofoam, it stays in there. And she also glued on gems. She took 2 teardrop gems and put them together to make them a heart. Very clever. And she just added just plain seed beads. I love how the sparkles and the intricate patterns remind me of Fabergé eggs. So that's how you make the elegant Easter egg. I hope you enjoyed making them as much as we did. They're really quick to make, and no two are alike. So even if it's the same person, it's fun because very quickly you can make a bunch of different variations and have a whole nice Easter egg tree for your mantle or your Easter table this Easter.